Hello and welcome to We Could Do It Better. I am Jonah Maple and my co-host Grant Colvin is coming around here in just a second. It's Thursday, February 20th, and at 12:30, and it's very cold outside. My hair actually, because I showered late, my hair froze on the way to my first class this morning. Yeah, it was.
I could not. I took the bus, so I only got plunged into the harsh environments for maybe 20 seconds tops.
Yeah, but we have not a super busy news nerd news.
It's not a big day for nerd news. No.
Yeah, it hasn't been a super big week, but we do have some reviews and stuff. We will at the end of the show be doing our Captain America Brave New World review, and they'll have spoilers on it, but that'll be at the end of the show around 1:15. So if you want to tune in for that, you can, or if you just want to stop listening, then if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But we're gonna jump into Multiverse of Movies first. As we do have our first news, Daniel Craig is, according to Hollywood Reporter, is exiting the Sergeant Rock movie from DC Studios. It looks like Craig's representation and DC have not issued a statement yet, or at least from what I've seen.
Well, that's a pretty big loss. I mean, Daniel Craig, of course, it could have been just because of scheduling conflicts or contract negotiations, but to let Daniel Craig go, that's
Although,
pretty big.
I mean, I don't know if they had ever totally confirmed it, so if that's why they haven't talked about it. Which, I mean, it seems from what I've read from Screen Rant and Hollywood Reporter, the movie still is happening. They still have a director and a screenwriter attached to the role. It's the same team as Challengers, I believe. Yeah. And that is a loss. I mean, I do like Daniel Craig. I like him and the stuff. He's very good in the Knives Out and Glass Onion, and of course, very good in James Bond. So I think he would have been great with the role as Sergeant Rock. Which it's possible that is incorrect, but Hollywood Reporter usually isn't wrong about stuff like this.
Yeah. So we'll have to keep an eye out for who might take up the mantle next, because that movie is still greenlit and ready to go. So
do you have any ideas for who could play Sergeant Rock?
I mean, it's not it's so hard to get someone as gruff and tough. I mean, it was weird. Even Daniel Craig, when I first heard Daniel Craig got cast, I'm like, really? I mean, I wasn't complaining, but I'm like, if you look at Sergeant Rock, were you looking at?
Oh yeah, so I just forgot the guy's name.
I don't, because was it Alan Rich?
Yeah, so I was thinking that the guy who played Alan Richardson could play him. Alan Richardson, the guy who played.
But everyone
Reacher.
wants him to play.
a
character now.
He's very hot.
I've seen castings for Beast. I've seen Batman. I've seen you said he should or shouldn't?
Shouldn't be Batman.
Why not?
He's too big.
Not but absolute Batman.
Yeah, but that's not but that's specifically what if Batman was
big,
and didn't have money. So they're not going to do that.
I mean,
maybe they will in 20 years. Who knows?
I don't know, because I feel like Sergeant Rock isn't as tall.
Yeah, I mean, but I also don't think that it matters as much, because they're he's not as big of a character. So I mean, I think you could just you get someone with the charisma, and that if you don't, Sergeant Rock was a World War II comic, and there's just a guy named Sergeant Rock, and he fought Nazis and stuff. And they're just going to do
earlier DC heroes too.
Yeah. I mean,
just when they were doing wartime comics.
National. Back when the comics industry was basically
during the times Captain America and Bucky, and you had all those sorts of comics trying to tie into World War II.
Yeah, I do think the majority of from 41 through 45, the majority of sold comics were war comics, and even Batman and Superman and stuff a lot would have a lot of war issues.
Yeah.
and then they kind of died after that. Also in Daniel Craig news, somewhat, the James Bond the James Bond has been controlled by the Broccoli family, forever, and they have ceded their control to Amazon MGM Studios.
Oh,
so I've heard some people are concerned because I do know that there's a James Bond game in the works.
Yeah, that's been in the works for a while though.
Yeah, I know some people are like concerned about like what's going to happen after that. I think we just kind of, it'll be sad to go because I don't know if the James Bond movies, especially since Daniel Craig got up on the role, and you're more of a James Bond person than I am, so you can tell me if I'm, but like I think that they've had a really good creative direction.
They did, yeah.
movies.
I mean everything. No Time to Die was taken in different directions. You either loved it or you hated it. When it came to Daniel Craig's No Time to Die,
but I think outside of like No Time to Die and Quantum Solace, the rest of the Daniel Craig ones
they were very
beloved.
well done. And and everyone's asking like, who's going to be the next James Bond? And everyone's like, okay, who's tall, handsome, and British that could play off. I've heard a lot about like Idris Elba, Henry Cavill, which I think both are definitely on that kind of older, more mature side.
But Daniel Craig was also he's old, older than you realize, and I think he might have been like in his 40s when he started.
Yeah, that sounds,
when he started playing it.
About right.
A lot of them are. He just had like a longer tenure, I think, than most.
Coleman Domingo would also be a really good James Bond, but he's also everywhere now too.
Yeah.
And he's not British.
There are a lot of people. I'm kind of because I mean it's been owned by Amazon MGM for a while. Yeah. But they just like apparently the Broccoli family they had control of it. So I am kind of worried that it's another big studio, and they'll do big studio things and not maybe like say what they want to say or use it as they wanted to.
Yeah.
Not that like James Bond is like a particularly like important role, but just I think like in general like having creative control in smaller hands.
Yeah.
It's good.
In other news, this is semi-breaking, but Goonies 2 is officially in the works with Steven Spielberg back.
Really? Uh-huh. That's interesting because he kind of famously doesn't like sequels.
Yeah. So
like that's like one of the things about him.
I did see Ke Huy Quan's.
Oh, Ke Huy Quan's coming back?
Well, all the Goonies reunited at his Love Hurts world premiere.
Oh, that's fun.
So
I need to see that.
I've heard good things about it.
I love Ke Huy Quan.
But yes, that is currently in the works with Spielberg to direct, which will be fun. I mean, it's going to be weird. I don't know. Like, obviously all of them are going to be older, so you can't have like their same, like, you can't have a bunch of like 50, 60-year-old.
I mean, I think that would be very fun to see like old Sean Astin and Ke Huy Quan just like
being completely childish.
Yeah, well, just like having fun together. I think that'd be fun. I would imagine. I mean, I don't like have a pitch with it. It could be whatever. I would imagine that it would be a Ghostbusters. Like a Ghostbusters situation.
Yeah.
What they've done with the past two movies in that franchise. I don't know. That is very because like Steven Spielberg like even I think after. Whatever, like he even like works into his contract so he gets to say no to sequels.
Yeah,
so
you could tell that this is important enough to him, I guess.
Yeah, or
money,
or he just got, or it's like a Harrison Ford thing where he got old and just is like, all right, you're gonna. I mean, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. Steven Spielberg is a great creative and deserves to have money for the memorable movies that he has made.
Yeah.
And impact on all of our childhoods that he has had. Also, Oscar nominations have come in.
Yes, they have.
The Oscars will be March 2nd. And I've just been reading through them a lot. They seem decent. I mean, they're controversies we're not going to get into. But I mean, I'm glad to see Wicked's nominated for a lot of stuff. The Substance is nominated for a lot of stuff. I would imagine I would imagine Substance gets Best Director. Or cinematography or whatever. There are a few of these that I need to see. I've seen a decent amount of these because I've mentioned this before. When I'm back home and not at school, which I wasn't last year, last spring at least in summer, I work at a movie theater and could see free movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you have any predictions of what you think is gonna win?
That's the thing is I haven't really watched the Oscars in a long time, just because.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've kind of fallen off of award shows altogether. I don't watch the Grammys. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch.
Yeah, I didn't like watch the Grammys. I just saw clips and saw people.
Yeah,
like
I know there's like interesting things going on, but yes, as a film student, I should at least be, and I am paying attention to the nominees just because they kind of hold a standard in the film industry. However, also at the end of the day, it's like it's gonna sit essentially at a panel of judges, and it's gonna be, like I'm not always gonna be like agreeing with this stuff. It's a kind of like a popularity contest.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
From what I've gathered and the vibes that I've gotten is that the Oscars are very much a race in which a lot of it is just like people like using their influence, and Oscars are very like not like political, not in the sense of like national politics, but just like internal politics, Hollywood politics.
Yeah.
In terms of like who they give it to a lot of times.
Exactly.
And that's why we get like there have been some not very good movies that have won Best Picture.
Exactly.
Because of stuff like that.
So like I mean I wish all the cast and crew and the pictures involved the best, but it just I don't know, I don't really into it as I used to.
Yeah, I do have one prediction. I think it's that Dune 2 is going to win visual effects, because I think I've seen all of the movies nominated for visual effects, and they're all great. It's a stacked year. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was great. Actually, no, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Alien Romulus, but that movie, just everything looks so real and so amazing in that movie.
Now I haven't seen Dune.
You haven't?
So maybe I need to watch it before I, make a statement. And that's really how most people should be speaking these days, is they should probably do some research before anything comes out of their mouth. But is Dune just a little overhyped?
It's probably not in my top 5 movies. It might be my top 5 movies this year. It's not like one of my top 5 movies. I'm not a huge Dune fan. I've never read the books.
Like as an avid Star Wars fan.
Yes, which I am. I'm a very avid Star Wars fan.
I feel like I haven't seen Dune, so maybe that's what I need to do at some point. Is just sit down and it's like 3 hours each.
Yeah, there's part 1 and 2, and I think both of them are almost or around 3 hours.
Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a huge.
I would recommend don't watch them at the same. Don't watch them in one sitting, because that's a lot. I would recommend what I did: watch one, and then the next day watch the next one.
Okay.
Because I heard from some people who saw Dune 1 and then a year later saw Dune 2, and they were just like, I kind of forgot what happened in Dune
1. Yeah, it's just. So you didn't read the book before, did you?
No, it's on my list to read, but there are also 15 things on my list to read.
Right.
And 5 of them are sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And most of them are pretty long. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna try to read it by the end of this year, and then I'll see if I get into the other ones.
Okay.
Or I'll just read. I mean, there's a graphic novel adaptation. I might just read that, but I feel like I probably should just read the. I mean, I'm an English student, for Christ's sakes. Probably should.
Yeah.
Read the original one. All right, moving on to Don't Change the Channel. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1 has finished. I've seen It's 10 episodes. I've seen all 10. I believe you've seen the first 8.
Did the last 2 come out yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay.
9 and 10 came out yesterday.
Then yes, no, I've been swamped in all sorts of things.
Yeah, very understandable. It is that time of the semester. We're kind of approaching midterms.
Right. So I still need to finish the last 2, but I guess, it's been more than a week since, the last episodes came out. So I guess the last thing I really saw was...
and spoilers for, I guess, like the
1 through 8.
1 through 8. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We saw Daredevil.
We got to see Daredevil, which was really cool. We got to see Iron Man make, Doc Ock surrender.
Yeah, Iron Man kind of is in more is like classic stuff like eye slits.
Yeah.
Kind of in like the...
You've got a lot of reference to the Superhero Registration Act, Civil War.
Yeah, it's kind of happening on a parallel to...
And that's the thing
MCU.
is like the Sokovia Accords are still very much up in the air, I guess, right now.
Yeah, or they were signed, but
Now, I'm sure I'll figure this out towards the last 2 episodes, but of course, Norman Osborn has taken on like a mentor role to Peter Parker. And, Norman kind of saved Peter Parker's skin in episode 8, I think, where, Scorpion just beat the crap out of him. And Norman Osborn's glider, or, I guess what will be the Green Goblin's glider, came in and swooped up Peter Parker and took him to safety.
Yeah.
Something happened, didn't it? There's going to be something that happens in these last 2 episodes where, Norman's true colors are probably going to be revealed, or, you've got, I'm sure, because, Daredevil knows something about Norman Osborn that Peter Parker does not, or at least has not figured out yet.
I will say this. I think not as many stuff in general are... It is... And this is a trend I've seen recently, especially for... and I kind of felt the same way about Creature Commando. It feels like a half season of television. A lot of stuff doesn't get resolved, and it's.
But we've already got seasons 2
yeah,
and 3
season 2 and 3 are confirmed, greenlit. But I feel like generally, because we're kind of making like our way back to like weekly release, more of like the how television worked in the pre-streaming era, where like not everything's releasing all the time, or we're kind of in a mixture between that and. But a season of television always like tells a complete story, and like not like these character stories aren't done, but there's always a complete story at the end, and I feel like that kind of wasn't the case here, and maybe that's just because I mean it's a fine I think it's a fine show so far.
No, I'm enjoying it, and at the end of episode 8, you got to see the beginning of the red and blue suit.
Yeah,
which. I guess this isn't going to be so much of a spoiler, but is it at least used in the last 2 episodes the entire time, or does he get a different suit change?
Yeah, I mean it's you get to see the normal suit. It's it looks. I mean it looks just like Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, I was very happy to see
John Romita Jr.
style.
I'm sorry, John Romita Sr. rather.
Yes.
It's a fine show.
Yeah,
I'm
enjoying it. I think that it kind of heals my inner child a little bit. You know, just sometimes all you need to do is just watch like a PG. It is PG or whatever.
Yeah, TV PG.
Just a TV PG show. Like you don't need all the blood and cussing and gratuitous violence that usually comes along in rated R or PG-13 movies. So I feel like just a little part of my inner child healed from that. Yeah.
I mean, I think if you want to watch another Spider-Man show, this is a fine one. I think it's probably the second best. I haven't seen every Spider-Man show, but at least of the one, if we're talking about the ones in the 21st century, I'd say second best written, second best looking. Spider-Man? I think Spectacular Spider-Man is the best written. I think Ultimate Spider-Man.
And it has the best theme song, too.
Yeah, I think Ultimate Spider-Man is the best looking one.
Yeah.
And it kind of strikes a balance between them. And it does do its it does do more new stuff than a lot of the Spider-Man shows have.
You're saying Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
Yeah, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man does, because you get to see characters who aren't normally part of Spider-Man's supporting cast.
Well, it's just great because now Marvel has all the rights.
Yeah, they have rights to everything, so they can use. I mean,
we're able to see things that we have not seen in a long time.
Yeah, and there's a great. I mean, I'm sure if you're a big Marvel fan, if you're a big Spider-Man fan like me, or even a bigger one than me. I mean, I'm not the hugest Spider-Man fan, but I've read a fair amount of Spider-Man. I watch the shows. I like Spider-Man. There's a lot of like Easter eggs there and like cool characters and like characters that I didn't realize Tombstone would be in this. I didn't realize Nico Minor. Oh, it's cool. It's interesting to take some of these characters. Either if it's Harry Osborn is a supporting character, but in a different way than he usually is.
Yeah.
And like Tombstone as a supporting character, but he's Peter's age, or having I think Nico Minoru, having her as the supporting character is I think that's a great pool. I think that's a great idea. I think it's executed very well. I kind of wish we got more stuff for that character. And I feel like because there's some hint to mystical stuff, and I feel like that'll be more season 2. It is kind of weird because you do miss Gwen and Flash and Mary Jane.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I really haven't thought about them much.
Really?
Yeah. And I am an avid Spider-Man fan. I mean, I'm a huge fan of, Gwen Stacy, Flash Thompson, Mary Jane Watson, all of, the entire like original, I guess, roster of characters.
Yeah.
But I think just to have such a fresh take and have new characters that some people might not know that much about, it's refreshing.
Yeah, and I do think because there have been so many
iterations.
Yeah, so many animated Spider-Man series that you kind like I do like you have to change things up, because I think that and they did that with Ultimate Spider-Man 2. I mean, that's not my favorite show in the world, but there was stuff, especially like as a kid, that I did like about it, and it did do some things new where we got this new supporting cast. And also this new show, it looks great. There is like some like oh crap moments, especially in the last 2 episodes.
Oh really?
That you're gonna like, and some changes to stuff that I'm sure already are controversial. And I'm kind of like whatever. It is interesting.
We'll do a full spoiler breakdown next week.
Yeah. We'll do a spoil, and we'll talk about the whole Uncle Ben of it all.
Oh.
There's not even like a spoiler with Uncle Ben, but the missing of Uncle Ben, I think, is a factor in this, in which you kind of never get that. It's kind of implicit, but if this is like, I'm sure for like a lot of kids out there, this is going to be their Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. To not have that, I think, is kind of going to be a little weird.
That's understandable.
Yeah. Not saying that you have to do like the whole. You have to do the whole shebang.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Next up, we finally got more news about The Last of Us. We got season 2 posters a couple days ago with an official release date of April 13th. This will follow Joel and Ellie as they navigate a more The Last of Us was already a pretty post-apocalyptic show, but there's a lot of. See, this sounds really like repetitive. So this is absolutely going to take after the Last of Us Part 2 game that Naughty Dog had released back. It was like mid.
You've played it, I haven't.
So if you've played the game, you kind of know what to expect. It's going to get really dark, really sad. Because I don't want to like spoil it for anyone who hasn't played the game but loves the show.
I mean, the show is very sad too.
Right, of course. I mean, it's a zombie apocalypse. People are going to die. There's going to be, loss. But Last of Us Part 2 especially had some controversial parts, to say the least.
Okay.
And I think you're going to have some people who are like, oh, they're going to try to push some agenda on the audience.
Well, the character, like they're not pushing an agenda, just the character is gay.
They are following the actual
which just like
game.
Having someone be a thing that is a thing in real life isn't. It's not
pushing an agenda.
I'm editorializing a little bit.
Right.
That's not pushing an agenda if you're just representing the reality as it is.
But a lot of people, you're always going to have people on both sides being like, oh, they're pushing an agenda. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing that.
Yeah, some people, are like to make a whole big deal out of nothing.
Not a molehill.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I assume that it'll follow a very similar structure of the last season of Last of Us, where they'll drop every week. You'll get a new episode every week instead
I hope so.
The weird cluster episodes that we get for stuff like Daredevil or at least Daredevil Born Again, because I don't know if you knew about that, but Daredevil Born Again is also going to have weird clustered episodes.
That's okay. I am a fan of the having 2 episodes, having the first 2 episodes drop at once, and maybe having the last 2 episodes drop at once. But this whole thing that they're doing with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, there needs to be a way to shorten that.
Right, make the episodes longer so you don't have to, because like.
Well, no, sorry. I was just saying you need to shorten that title. It's
yeah. So we will get them every week, which
is but good. I mean, it's just like the whole 3 episodes at once thing every week was kind of a bit much. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of what they did with Agatha all along, where they dropped the first 2 episodes at once, and then it was 1 episode a week for the rest of the time, and then it was 2 episodes at once for the last 2. And I'm amenable of whether or not you want to do 1 or 2 episodes for the last one. I think it was a smart choice for that, just because of how it was set up, and the finale was more of like an epilogue than a climax.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like having stuff spread out because you can just live in it more,
right?
Experience it.
Because then, we got 4 weeks of.
Yeah, we only got 4. Yeah, because it's 2 episodes and 3 episodes and 3 more episodes and 2 episodes.
They could really stretch this out if they wanted to. If they dropped more episodes over, you would build more anticipation. You'd have people talking about it longer.
Yeah, because there are at the end of each episode, there is something to talk about. There is, there's a cliffhanger, or there's some new cameo,
breakthrough. Yeah.
And then if you've got 3 at once, you're just okay, whatever.
Yeah. Moving on to Game Over, we've got The Thing and Johnny Storm coming in hot. Do you like what I did there?
Yeah.
With Marvel Rivals this Friday, and I am here to break down their powers and abilities. And we've also got some other new interesting tidbits of knowledge that I'll share with you that doesn't relate to Human Torch or The Thing, but it does relate to Marvel Rivals. So first up for The Thing, which this is something that Jonah has been very patiently waiting for, is all of the abilities that The Thing will have. So his passive ability is going to be Unyielding Will, which means he's immune to launch up, knockback, and other displacement effects. Essentially meaning if Spider-Man were to zip his way over, he can't uppercut the Thing and perform some super insane combo on him, which makes sense. I mean, if Spider-Man tried to uppercut the Thing, I would hope that he would fracture a couple of fingers in his...
Yeah, it is unbreakable.
Yeah. His primary attack is going to be called Rocky Jab, and he just can rapidly punch forward. So it's really, putting that emphasis into the brawler type Vanguard that he's going to be playing as. Another ability is going to be Stone Haymaker, which is he's just got a heavy attack.
Yeah.
So he's got kind of a light attack and heavy attack. He's got an ability called the Yancey Street Charge.
Love that.
Which is he continuously can charge forward, launching up enemies and leaving behind a zone at the final position that prevents the use of mobility abilities, which pretty just much means I don't think people can really escape super easily when he's charging forward.
Yeah. I would imagine that would have a lot of use strategically too.
Right, especially for the DPSs who want to be getting out of the way. It makes it sound like they're going to have a really hard time being able to do so once he's got that charge up.
Yeah. If you can just throw people from the objective area.
Yeah. Next up, you've got Embattled Leap, which is he jumps towards an ally and applies damage reduction to both of you. That's a nice little, that's a very Vanguard ability. It's just, when you reduce damage reduction, that is a very Vanguard ability. And then his ultimate is, of course, Clobberin' Time, which is he uses immense power to launch all the enemies in front of you into the air.
Yeah. And all of these have, I watched the trailer too, all of these have kind of just catchphrases.
Yeah.
That he has. I forget what each of them are. But like the whole trailer was going. It was like, is he gonna when's he gonna say it's clobbering time? And he does yell it's clobbering time
for his ultimate,
for the ultimate, which is very fun. And I think that the voice actor does a really good job. It is
very more gravelly.
Yeah, well, and it has kind of like the accent that he has. He sounds like Jack Kirby.
Yeah, not so much as the Evan Moss backrack thing. Which again, no hate to that.
Yeah, I mean
it's a different take. Next up, I'm more excited about Human Torch, and I'm very excited to play as him tomorrow. But his ultimates are crazy.
Yeah.
So he's got his primary attack, which is Fire Cluster. So he shoots fireball that can split into multiple smaller fireballs, which I saw some gameplay, and it sounds like once the fireballs impact the ground, they actually kind of just stay there for a little bit too. So if someone is walking over them, they'll also intake damage as well. Like the fire doesn't immediately just burn out. It kind of simmers there and can inflict damage into oncoming enemies. And then you've got Plasma Body, which is enter an accelerated state. So this pretty much just means he's a character that's going to be able to fly.
That's fun.
Flame on, and then he'll be able to launch up into the sky.
Yeah, flying characters are fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like
it's going to be very much like Storm.
Yeah, I do think that's one of the interesting things about Morph Revival is that like a lot of other just like people different characters have different type of movements. Some of them are just in the air the whole time. That's cool.
This next ability sounds like a lot of fun. Pyro Prison. Connect flame fields to form a firewall that deals burning damage to enemies.
So that's even more like battlefield control stuff.
Yeah, so it's very much like he can kind of command where the battle goes, and it's very crowd controlling. He's got a flaming meteor move, which allows him to dive towards the ground and stun nearby enemies. And then his ultimate is Supernova, which he will unleash shockwaves to deal damage to enemies within range. During this skill activation, the flame field will transform into a fire tornado. I have seen this activate, and it is horrifying. If I personally, one of my least favorite ults to go up against in the game is Storm's ability, where she turns into a tornado.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the fear on my face when there's not just a tornado, but it's a fire tornado hurtling towards me.
Yeah, I mean it is a thing in fiction kind of nowadays where it's just like, hey, tornadoes are scary, but if you put a fire tornado or a sharknado,
right,
it's even more scary.
Sharknado, team up with Jeff. That would be hilarious.
They should do that.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he has him in the tornado, isn't automatically? I guess that isn't automatically a Sharknado.
I mean, I guess like if he
have
does
you seen those movies?
No, I haven't.
Me and my friend Eli, you met him. Watched through like each of. I've seen watch through I think the first 4, but every time there's a new one, we would like watch them all over again.
I just know they keep getting more ridiculous than the last.
Yeah,
you know.
I haven't seen like number 5 or 6. I think that there are 6, but like those first 4, they're so ridiculous.
Yeah.
My favorite is the second one when they realized, oh, this is because the first one they're trying to be serious, but it's just bad, and it was funny because it was bad. But the second one, it was in between like them going like all out, with like a big budget, but still like trying to make a bad movie with a big budget, where like they realized, oh, we can be like campy, and this could be a silly, funny movie,
right?
But also like we don't have a huge budget, and it is. I mean, I guess, and it is kind of it's halfway in between like the later ones and the first one.
It's like it's so bad it's good.
Yeah, which is 100% the first one, and the second one they started to realize why people like the first one.
Yeah. Do you want to take the next point?
Yeah. So there's a new map. It's Central Park Eternal Night.
Yes.
Yes, I think what they called it. So it's like a blood moon, and it's in Central Park, and there's like a mansion in the middle, and there's like a bunch of other stuff. And the mansion is implied to be Dracula's mansion, which is very fun because one of my favorite parts of Marvel lore is.
Are you going to talk about Moon Knight?
No, I'm not.
I'm going to talk about Moon Knight.
Okay, so back in like the old Tomb of Dracula comics, but also, which I haven't read. I want to because they're written by Marv Wolfman, but I don't. But I can't read Marvel stuff for free anymore.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite X-Men comics is Uncanny X-Men 159, and Dracula just lives in a mansion in the middle of Central Park like the Addams Family does.
Yeah.
And it's just like a thing that just like
everyone has accepted it.
Yeah, and it's just accepted. It's like, oh yeah, there's like that creepy vampire dude in like the middle of Central Park.
But like, if you were to exist in the Marvel universe, I mean, you've gone up against villains taking over the world and incursions and all of this other stuff. So like. It seems normal.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Like how why does he have a like how does that happen?
No one should be fazed by that at this point.
Yeah, but it is. I don't know. I love it. I love Uncanny X-Men 159. It's so it's I could talk about that issue forever. It's just one like self-contained issue that's just so amazing. For a million reasons, and I've like heard and I've like read other people writing about it and talking about it, and it's so good.
Well, I'm really hoping, like with this introduction of Dracula, I hope he becomes a playable character. That'd be a lot of fun. I don't know if we're gonna get that yet, but
there are like a million other Marvel characters that
when you've got Blade, I mean, you've already got a vampire on your team, so they might not include Dracula, and that's fine. If he's just going to be like, if Dracula is just going to be like a villain and a non-playable character and just someone to kind of push the story forward, that's fine. But what I love about is I've seen stuff in the game files where Moon Knight keeps talking about how Dracula owes him money. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, like Moon Knight has major beef with Dracula, and he has, he's become the center of a lot of memes because you've got the random BS go, which isn't even the original like wording. Have you seen the meme where it's just like random? Have you not seen that? Oh,
I'm not on meme internet.
That's fine.
Very much.
But apparently, yes, Dracula owes Moon Knight money, and in the game files, it was found that he will talk about how Dracula owes him money.
That is funny. I wonder if the other superheroes like haven't met Dracula, and I would imagine because Moon Knight's crazy, and they'd just be like, "Okay, dude, sure, whatever you say."
Right.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah. But we did also get a new look at Blade with the trailer.
Yeah.
He should be playable, I would assume, by the end of the season. He does not look all right. I mean, there's good reason why he's not playable yet, and he's in trouble. He's in deep trouble. I mean, Dracula's got a hold on him for sure. But I assume that throughout the course of the season, the Fantastic Four would probably be the ones to save him.
Yeah.
If not other heroes as well.
Yeah.
But lastly, before we go into Comic Corner.
I was just gonna say Storm King because she has, as in Uncanny X-Men 159, one of my favorite comic issues of all time. Storm does have beef with Dracula.
Storm does?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that they can bond over. But there's a new article by Game Rant that came out a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple weeks ago, we had actually talked about how the game developers were trolling hackers.
Which they should.
Good
for them. That's so fun.
But
I love it.
In a recent interview, the game's executive producer said that, they had discussed rumors about them deliberately trolling data miners, but they revealed that not to be the case.
Or was it just like a cheeky thing? It was like, well, we'd never do that.
So according to Game Rant, when asked more directly about the misleading data miners with the false information planted in the hero shooter files, Ku, the executive producer, said, "We would rather spend our time developing the actual game. This doesn't automatically mean that Ultron is coming to Marvel Rivals just because leakers found some data in his ability kit. It only means that the villain was likely considered at some point and may or may not come to the game in the future."
Yeah.
So everything we heard about the X-Men, Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Gambit, Rogue, all of
Colossus.
them, Colossus, they all still have potential.
Yeah.
They all could be sitting in the game files as we speak, but this could be months, years down the road when they eventually come out to Marvel Rivals.
Or never have it happen. I could very much see it as a thing where it's like, hey, like work on a Professor X thing. We don't know, like, and we'll see how it looks.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, no, that's too weird, and I don't think that'll work.
Yeah.
Same thing, with Colossus. Like, oh, we've got too many of this or that.
Yeah. Next up, that's all you, buddy.
Oh, yeah, moving on to Comic Corner for a little bit. Neither of us have made our way to shout out the comic shop downtown Muncie. But there's a couple things I'm looking forward to. I'm getting, there's a new James Tynion horror comic, but I'm also looking, Power Fantasy, second arc comes up. I'm getting that, and I'm excited for that. But there is news about like events and new stuff.
Yeah.
So
Marvel community is up in arms.
Yeah. So Gwen Stacy's coming back again. She's like her fourth or fifth time coming back as Gwenpool. And there's eventually, I think we mentioned it last week. There was like they posted like an image of just this grave of Gwen Stacy being digged up. But now they put Gwenpool over that. And like there's a Gwenpool book.
So do we know how she's back?
No. I mean, and I think that's kind of the fun of a clone thing. I mean, I don't even know if it's a clone thing of like that whole thing. Yeah, she's coming back. It's written by two people that I haven't. I've been meaning to read. It's written by the same guy who's writing The High Republic right now, which has been on my list, and I've actually like checked that out from the library before and be like, I'm gonna read this over vacation, and then I just didn't because I'm just like, I don't really care about The High Republic. But yeah, so she's coming back as Gwenpool, which if you know anything about Gwenpool is not Gwen Stacy,
right?
And
Gwendolyn Poole.
Yeah, she's Gwendolyn Poole, and she's from another universe. Is it our universe? Who knows? But
this is the Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, and Gwenpool fans like have to like tell people all the time, Gwenpool is not Gwen Stacy. It's a different character. Her name is just Gwen. It's more complicated than that, but that is the facts of the matter.
Yeah.
And I assume it's going to take off fans of Gwenpool who have to like more insist that Gwenpool is not Gwen Stacy from another universe. Also, they said that like Gwenpool is going to be, she's like she's like Deadpool, and it's so much more complicated.
I'm not loving the suit though.
Yeah, I mean, we've only seen like a cover of it, so we don't really know. The pitch is that Gwen Stacy comes back from the dead as a cold-blooded killer.
That makes me go like, what? Really?
Series. Gwen Stacy, yeah. And then she's going to be, and then Gwendolyn Poole is going to be like guiding her through this. Which
that's so weird. Do we think like Gwendolyn Poole dug up Gwen Stacy? Is she like
probably
trying to form a team?
I don't. I like Gwenpool. I do not think that she would do that, or at least I like her in the hands of a good writer. I've avoided the stuff that people say are bad. Mm-hmm. I kind of like this. Weirdly enough, I trust the people who like this seems like a different enough clone pitch because a lot of clone pitches kind of are the same. This seems like a different enough one. There's also a more other stuff. There's also Mr. Terrific Year 1 series this summer, which I think this is our first. This is his new stuff. And there's going to be a new X-Men event where Comic-Con goes back to like a bunch of events like House of M and Giant Size X-Men.
That's cool.
I don't know why they're bringing back House of M. X-Men fan hate House of M. It ruined the line for 10 years. Anyway, we're going to move on to our main event, which is our spoiler-filled Captain America Brave New World review for the next 14, 15 minutes. So we saw this opening night on Thursday.
Yes, we did.
And
I was excited.
I was excited. I was excited too. I do think my excitement decreased leading up to it.
I was feeling very optimistic about all of it, just because it's a brand new take, and you've got. I mean, I love Anthony Mackie and what he's done for the mantle of both Falcon and Captain America, but the movie was great in the first hour.
I'd say that the first. I don't know if I'd say great, but it was very solid in like the mystery, in like the political thriller, and like the mystery and like the spy stuff really like worked and like felt.
I think they tried to do Winter Soldier again, and they kind of did in a way. They kind of did, a Winter Soldier-esque story again.
But the reason Winter Soldier worked is because it was like nothing. It was like no quote unquote superhero movie ever before, and this kind of because like one of the things like we were excited about was like, oh, it feels different.
Based off the trailers, it absolutely felt different. But and I kept telling you, I still don't know what this movie is about.
Yeah, and I think that kind of is my because we talked about it for a while, like driving back.
Yeah,
and my kind of just. Like sitting on it more has my opinion on it has soured. Yeah, just thinking of stuff where it's just like, oh, yeah, and especially like the not to beat around the bush.
No, be blunt. Let's go.
The acting, some of the acting just wasn't at the same levels as some of the people that I was used to.
Right,
like, Carl Lumbly's great. Yeah, he's been better in everything else I've seen him in. And
sure.
He was good in that movie, but it kind of seemed directionless, and it kind of and maybe some of it would, and some of it and I do imagine a lot of it is because of the reshoots and the rewrites,
right?
And they kind of removed stuff.
Well,
and it just didn't work together.
So I initially had walked out of this movie with you and 2 other friends. And the overall consensus was 6 or 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I said 8. Right now, it would probably go back down to like 6.
Yeah. And so we're going to kind of get into some spoilery stuff. So if you want to get away, now's your chance to do so.
Oh, it was Tim Blake Nelson. I thought Tim Blake Nelson would be better because I've seen him in what's that like movie with him and George Clooney?
I do not know.
But that in the Watchmen series, he was really, really good in. But and I kind of expected that level of greatness from him, but it just kind of wasn't there. And I don't even necessarily know if that's his fault. It didn't work as well.
I had seen earlier concept art of what the leader was supposed to look like, and it looked more like the leader.
Yeah.
But when we had seen the movie, it was clear that he had changed dramatically. And I'm not so mad about that, because if you were to intake levels of gamma radiation, people would respond differently. So for him, he kind of had his brain kind of, I guess, emerge out of the back of his head a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much as the tall head that the leader is known for, which was teased in concept art. And he's always been a probability villain. He's always guessed the probabilities, and I love that they leaned into that. And his influence, and how smart he is, and how he was able to manipulate Thunderbolt Ross, and really the rest of the United States government, was impressive. I just felt like you had a lot going on, because you had the tension of the foreign nations fighting over what was called Celestial Island. You had Thunderbolt Ross trying to reform the Avengers, which that never really truly got resolved.
That never went anywhere.
And then you had essentially what was the Red Hulk incident, where just like, okay, the leader's been poisoning Thunderbolt Ross with high levels of gamma radiation for, I don't know, the past 6 to 10 years because his heart was essentially dying, and the leader was concocting these pills that, you know, he would be able to take. But for the amount of hype that Red Hulk kind of took around this movie, I was severely underwhelmed.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of it made, because I mean, I'm not the biggest like action scene or like final fight scene person. Like that's not like no shit if like that's your thing. But the final 30 minutes of the movie, the conclusion, the climax of the movie did not feel as solid as what came before.
Yeah,
and the falling action kind of also wasn't great too, and it wasn't. Felt weird. And there's like a great speech that Anthony Mackie gives that is just like to someone like in a like it was like wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah,
this dude that you're talking about is just almost died and is in a hospital bed. Like, why are you talking about yourself? But like the way it concluded didn't feel that satisfying.
No.
And kind of the whole
Red Hulk should not be taken down by a freaking speech.
Yeah. I understand why they did that, because like one of like his like superpowers is that he's really like he was a counselor. He's really good at talking people down, but it kind of
sure. Okay. I'll give you that.
So to me that kind of worked, but the whole
and Captain America is notoriously good at speeches.
Yeah. But the whole like once Ross got big, and the CGI around that looked good, but once he got big, it kind of all just felt by the numbers.
It did. I mean, and it wasn't just that, you know, the whole final fight scene, if that's what you want to even call it. There were multiple times throughout the movie, especially like when you had Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres, you know, Captain America and Falcon, I guess, flying around Celestial Island trying to take down mind-controlled fighter pilots, essentially. The CGI did look a little fake, and a lot of people were going online saying like they kind of just looked like action figures, which I can absolutely see that. And it did look cheap and that hurts. As a Marvel superfan, it hurts to be like, this is almost comparable to maybe the last 3 years before the DCU got a hard reset. You know, that's like kind of what I felt. It's just like that same feeling. It's just like, oh, I mean, it wasn't great. It didn't absolutely suck.
Yeah, I do think because a criticism that is sometimes more valid than others, I think, is that all of the MCU movies feel the same.
Right. And
this kind of promised to be different than that, but at the end of the day did kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
And that's not like, I don't think that was necessarily like a bad thing for the first like 9 years.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like you can do something new, like, because like what DC has shown is you can do something new in like other like in like within the genre, if you want to call that, of superheroes. You can do, because like Invincible and stuff like that has shown this too. You can do something new. Power Fantasy has shown that. Watchmen has shown that with the idea of superheroes and with these characters. And like, if you have belief in yourself that it'll worth it, and this is like a good way to tell a story, then people will respond to it.
Exactly. But it was just it fell flat. Ultimately.
Yeah, I'd probably put it, you know, in my bottom half. I don't think it's like one of the
definitely
worst.
It's in my bottom 10 out of everything, like all the Marvel movies. It's in my bottom 10.
Which, I mean, despite a lot of the narratives, I don't think that they've had very many true flops. Or at least I say this as someone who genuinely enjoys Marvel's and the Eternals.
I mean, last time I checked, Brave New World was still sitting at an 80% on or at least for the audience score.
Yeah. Well, and I said false, but so sort of I guess a better word would be critical. Like they don't have very many like this was a bad movie.
Right.
There are some where it's just like really
people are kind of split. People don't love it. People don't hate it.
Yeah.
And I mean I don't think I hate this movie at all because hate's a strong word. I think I'm just more disappointed.
Yeah. And I do think
because I was expecting a whole lot more. I was expecting like a really strong. Because Sam Wilson's Captain America deserves a strong entrance into the MCU, like an official, like because we kind of got it in the Disney Plus series, but he
was Falcon in that until the last episode.
Exactly, so he deserves to be, his movie deserved to be just as good as Chris Evans' first 3 movies.
Yeah, and I don't know. There also might be something there around it kind of neutered like the whole political argument that they kind of made. I do think that there was one made, but I do think it was kind of lessened. And there was some stuff that we're not gonna get into that they had to cut out. Like given what's happening on the world, is like you cannot have this character in this way representing that thing.
Right. Because then people would actually have an actual problem.
Well, in like there's some but in the America that we live in today, we live in a very scary time where like for really anyone, no one just like okay. And I do think you there should have. I do wish that they were allowed to kind of say more besides. Look at this poor president.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I do think that they kind of framed him in a more sympathetic way than his actions should have allowed. And I do think that I don't know if that was because of reshoots or just because they didn't want to make, or if they were trying to make an argument there. But I do think that argument kind of fell flat.
Now, I would like to talk about the last 10 minutes of Brave New World before we have to go in 3. But I did, with all my complaints with Brave New World, I loved the parallel between Thunderbolt Ross approaching Sam Wilson in the raft.
Yeah.
And with tables being turned where it's, Sam Wilson approaching Thunderbolt Ross in the raft. I thought that was okay, that was really funny. I think that did actually get a chuckle out of me because I loved seeing that parallel and, them experiencing what it's like to be on the other side.
Also, 15 seconds. It is nice to see when a president does a bad thing and breaks the law, which has happened a fair amount of times in American history, and none of those presidents have ever been punished. It is nice to. I mean, we've had at least 3, probably 5. It is nice to see hey, they should be held accountable.
Yeah. But also with the last 2 minutes. I want to talk about what the leader said in that post-credit scene.
Yeah,
look, I know a lot of people.
Incursions.
Yeah, he's predicting Secret Wars, and that was maybe the most excited I got in the entire movie. Unfortunately, they should have saved. I think they should have absolutely kept Red Hulk under wraps until the actual movie, because then you would have had everyone in the auditorium freak out because they would have been like, "Oh my gosh, he's turning into the Red Hulk." That would have been awesome. Yeah. I know they had to generate some sort of hype around it. You could have done it other ways. I think they should have done it they should have kept Red Hulk a surprise. But talking about Secret Wars, because we only have a minute, the leader did predict an incursion, and I think that with the leader in prison, they could, the Avengers, the government, whoever, could really use the leader as a tool to figure out what the best steps to take would be for predictability for Secret Wars. Maybe this is how ultimately some heroes survive, the incursion and get them on, if you've read Hickman's run of Secret Wars, what heroes get into the lifeboat and how high can we get the probability of the Earth 616 walking out of here alive?
Yeah, I that is a trope I like in comic. I don't know if trope is a thing, but sometimes if someone's universe is threatened, the smart characters, like Lex Luthor, that you can't trust. Sometimes you have to trust.
Exactly.
Them. Doom is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
although like kind of Doom kind of ended up screwing them over in Hickman Secret Wars.
Yeah.
But like we don't have a choice, and we know that we know that the character is going to manipulate us and take the better of us. But like the choice is annihilation.
Right.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, that is the end of the episode today. Thank you everyone.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you back next week.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.